Hello everyone, welcome back to the Mrdimmm channel, the only channel in the world playing Don't Starve Together while actively starving himself. Okay, I know, it's another video where I open up apologizing for my horrendous upload schedule. I've been drowning in work, swamped with life, and reeling in self-doubt and utter emotional distress. But fear none, for I am once again inspired and here to bring you another banger video. And what better way to relish in the darkness than playing Don't Starve Together? The premise of this video is quite simple. I was messing around with the DST characters and realized that Woody spawns with an axe and chops trees incredibly quickly. That's when the idea came to me. I love birchnut trees in this game. Not only are the trees beautiful, but they also drop birchnuts when chopped down. Those birchnuts can then be cooked for a quick snack, something I routinely utilize when playing this game. So why not a DST run playing only as Woody and only eating birchnuts? It's a stupid enough idea that had me curious how long I could survive doing just that. So buckle up, spam some encouraging comments down below as we try our best to avoid our inner demons lurking in the darkness. Rising from the spawning thingy, we reunite with Lucy. Now the world doesn't feel so cold and lonely. Oh yeah, let me explain Woody's relationship with his axe. His axe's name is Lucy, and she speaks to Woody the entire time you're playing. For the first couple of hours playing as Woody, I thought he was a madman constantly speaking to himself. Turns out it's much worse. His axe is speaking to him, and oh boy does she say some crazy things. So keep an eye out for her subtitles under Woody. They are incredible. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention. The team at Don't Starve Together was so kind to give me game keys for this game, so I can give this game away for free to 5 individuals. And obviously I wanted to give it to you, the viewers. So all you got to do to qualify is comment your favorite timestamp of this video down below in the comments and tell me why it was your favorite. Then over the next few weeks, I'll take everyone that commented a timestamp, throw it into a spinning wheel, and pick 5 lucky winners. I'll then reply to your comment saying you won and tell you how to get the game key. Huge thank you to the Don't Starve Together team for making this possible. Jumping back into things, I immediately forget that I am not supposed to pick up food, accidentally picking up a carrot. Realizing this is a mortal sin in this run, I put it down carefully, never to make this mistake again. My focus quickly shifts back to gathering supplies, chopping down trees and gathering grass and sticks. Luckily for me, I spawned directly in a birchnut tree biome, so I have ample trees to chop down and a potential base location if I so choose. Now for those that don't know, a fully grown birchnut tree has these 2 little branches and the leafy portion looks much fuller. Chopping down any birchnut tree that isn't fully grown eliminates the tree and the chance for birchnuts. Now a few things to know about the birchnuts that drop from these trees. During autumn, 2 birchnuts drop per fully grown tree. During spring, the number drops to 1 birchnut per tree. During winter, birchnuts cease to drop. So the immediate goal is to establish a storage of birchnuts to last during winter, which turns out to be a fairly difficult task as you'll come to see. Okay, enough yapping. As I'm slowly gathering birchnuts to feast on with my sweet Lucy, I begin mapping the area, scoping the size of the birchnut forest. Once realizing this initial area is perfect for my plan, I decide to set up a small home front before nightfall hits. Setting up a fire, cooking my first batch of birchnuts, and building the science machine. Since I also had an abundance of wood, I built a few storages. One near the fire to house wood, pine cones, and charcoal. The other to hold my excess items until I find a better long-term plan. Since I already had a good storage of birchnuts and had plenty of trees around, I decided to plant a bunch of new trees nearby and finally got to experience the fine, earthy taste of our first birchnuts. The next task on my agenda was to build a backpack, which I was able to do by just gathering 1 more grass. Now I'm fully prepared to go and experience the world. I chop a few of the trees nearby as I continue heading north. While doing so, I find grasslands, which also has a few more birchnut trees cornering it. I continue picking up supplies when I stumble upon my next biome, and once again strike gold. As I continue upwards, I try to mine every gold ore I stumble across, gathering a solid stockpile. That's when nightfall decided to fall all around me. I ended up lighting a few pine trees on fire so I can get some charcoal. While waiting for those to burn, I chopped a few more trees and gathered more supplies. Then chopping down the burnt trees and gathering 6 charcoal. Once back home, I crafted the supplies for the alchemy engine so I could begin building more complex items, placing it right next to the fireplace. While night began to fall, I built a rainometer as well as a thermal measurer. It's never too early to prep for future chaos. Speaking of chaos, I also built a lightning rod nearby, and with those placed, this officially becomes our long-term home. While all that was being being worked on. I seemed to let slip that I had to eat in the game called Don't Starve Together, but luckily I had 44 birchnuts on hand ready to eat. I cooked 16 of them and began munching away. After chopping down a few more trees, I head out for exploring. Now the goal of exploring is simple. We need one major thing: gears. Gears allow us to build an ice box for which we can store birchnuts in during winter. That's the end-all be-all of this run. Secondly, I'm trying to get a sense of the environment and resources nearby, and hope to also find a Chester. I mainly want a Chester because 1, he's super cute and adorable, but also, if you haven't noticed, I have a few mods downloaded. I'll list the mods down below in the description, but the one I was most excited to utilize was the Chomping Chester mod. This meant that whatever item I put in Chester would collect those items. So my main goal was to have him hold wood, birchnuts, flint, and gold. Then he could pick those up as I go about my business. This mod worked so well and was so incredibly helpful in my solo playthroughs that I was excited to use it in this run. But I'll spoil it for you right now. We never find Chester. I was quite frustrated by this, but such is life. It made the challenge more challenging, and for that, you guys have a more interesting video to watch. While continuing exploring, I stumble upon a dead survivor and a bunch of rope, which is a lovely find for yours truly. I also found a wormhole which I wasted no time jumping into. I always have to find out where they lead to ensure I'm not missing important information. Luckily, this threw me quite a bit away from home and landed me near a bunch of spiders, which would be useful for silk and spider glands. I waste no time killing a few spiders and wiping out a spider's nest for extra silk. I spent some time exploring before the night crept in, and waited out some of the night, before grabbing a torch and running around in utter darkness. Then I stumbled upon a cave, so I mined my way in and grabbed a few of the light bulbs so I could make a lantern, a much more efficient light source. While this was happening, I gained another insight and upgraded the cane carving skill. This will allow me to travel faster on pathways going forward. Once out and about, I kept exploring, and for the first time, was welcomed by the lovely sight of rain. With things wet and soggy, I took some of my frustrations out on spiders, but realized I was living a bit too dangerously. So I turned around and made my way home to gather my bearings. Once home, I added some fuel to the fire as night 5 came to an end. I then opened the crafting section and looked into how to make the wooden walking stick. At first, I was confused because it said I only needed Lucy to make it, but realized I had to unequip her, and was able to craft the walking stick. After that, I crafted a golden pickaxe, a golden shovel, and a lantern with all the resources I had found on my expedition. Upon completing the lantern, day 6 rolled around. I quickly sorted my inventory, equipped my walking cane, and off we went. So the goal is to explore the map, hit the edges, and ensure I'm not missing any major areas of importance in the world. So I begin exploring below my base, which so happens to be one of the biggest swamps I've ever seen playing this game, avoiding all the spiders, tentacles, and mrdims existing in this godforsaken place. That's when I was greeted by a wonderful sound. The sound of hounds lingering in the distance. Perfect timing to be visited by man-eating dogs. While the dogs were looming, the mrdims got a hit on me as I ran through a battlefield of pure chaos. After this, I don't think I want to step foot in this swamp ever again. And with that, the hounds arrive. I quickly whipped out my walking cane, found the path, and ran as fast as I could. With my health at 46, I knew I couldn't tank much damage. I was able to make it to my base and crafted a spear, just in case things got tricky. It appears the dogs may have gotten distracted by the mess that was the swamp, because they didn't make their way towards me. Having a brief moment of peace, I cooked all my birchnuts and ate them to fulfill my health a bit. There's no way I was going to die this early on to some mob. I can always chop down more trees for birchnuts. On the morning of day 7, I do exactly that. My evil desire for more birchnuts ended up spawning a poison birchnut tree. These guys spawn when cutting down a fully sized birchnut tree after day 3. There's also a small chance that other birchnut trees in the area will awaken. These guys are fairly annoying because they also spawn birchnutters, which will attack anything nearby. Luckily, the poison trees eventually calm down and return to their normal state, though they will be spawning quite often here on out. After that fiasco, I returned to chopping, making Lucy happier by the moment, stopping once I had 69 birchnuts and returning home for nightfall. While hanging out at the base, I realized I should build a tent, mainly for healing purposes, but also to pass some time during night. Also, I'll eventually need it for my sanity. For that, I'll need 6 spider silk, something I'll keep an eye on. In the meantime, exploring was the main focus. So on the morning of day 8, I tightened my grip around my walking cane's neck and ventured outward, this time exploring more of the northern area. Since my gold inventory was low, I mined some of the gold that was on the way, walking away with 13 gold overall. The trek continues until I find a respawner thing with pig heads on sticks. I always destroy these since it's free pig skins, which can be used for football helmets for better armor. Further running around, I stumbled upon some graves. I dug them up since gears can sometimes appear in them, but unfortunately I didn't find anything except lowered sanity and a ghost wanting to kill me for no apparent reason. Continuing my journey, I found some more gold and a not so alive survivor with rope littering his dead body. Hopefully he didn't do something unsavory with the rope before dying. As the day ended, the exploring did not, equipping my lantern and running around a new part of the world, stopping only only to eat birchnuts. As day 9 rolled around, I gained a new insight and used that to unlock the helmet carving skill, which unlocked the hardwood hat. All I needed was a pine cone, which I chopped down immediately, and allowed Lucy to do the rest. And voila, an awesome new helmet to protect that head of mine. Fast forwarding, remembering I needed some spider silk for my tent, I quietly sneak up to the nest, trying only to awaken a few spiders, which I successfully do. But then out of nowhere, the whole gang decides to pull up and make a scene. Noticing a few warrior spiders, that was a huge note for me, so I'd let them be for now. During this time, I've been finding a bunch of flowers to maintain my sanity. All these beehives will come in handy as I battle the elements later in the story. To wrap up day 9, I found some more gold deposits and stack up on gold while the getting is good, walking away with 31 gold. As the light dims, I whip out my lantern and happen to walk into the most horrid spider nesting ground I've seen in a long time. Spiders upon spiders upon spiders. Yeah, get me the hell out of here. And unfortunately for me, this place was a dead end. As the giant sky light bulb turned back on, Lucy is her typical anxious self, while I cram some more birchnuts down my throat. After that, I jump into the nearby wormhole and step foot into a whole new side of the world, pretty far from home. But this does appear to be a massive birchnut forest, which is a huge win for us. I do some initial scoping of the area, then heading back to the base, remembering this place because it will become very vital to my survival. Fast forwarding to home, I light a fire, craft a straw roll, and call it a night under the stars, slowly repairing my sanity and health. Ignore my hunger going down. We pretend that's not a consequence to sleeping in this game. Waking up on day 11, I chow down on some good old birch nuts, craft log armor, cook some more nuts, and prepare for my daily adventure. Today, I started off by planting more trees. I figured this was a good move since we've been chopping down so many trees near my base. Then, heading off for the day. Again, with the goal of finding gears for Chester. No luck with either so far. So the only thing I can do is to continue edging the sides of the world in hopes of finding new locations. This time, tackling the eastern side of the map. I did happen to find more pig heads on sticks, so I destroyed those and took the free loot. Then continuing my search when the weirdest thing happened. Woody transformed into a goose. This is one of the 3 Woody curses. 1, there's this one, the were-goose. 2nd, there's the were-beaver. 3rdly, there's the were-moose. While this was going on, I did learn that the best tactic is to stand still. Standing still allows the were-goose timer to tick down. Moving causes it to go down much slower, if at all. Once transformed back, the major struggle is your hunger. You spawn back as Woody with 0, and with that, your health decreasing rapidly. I run as fast as I could to retrieve the rest of my stuff, and power down some birchnuts to fill my hunger, and regain some lost health. With day 12 rolling around, I take another crack at the spider's nest, successfully luring a few spiders away and killing them, retrieving 2 spider silk. I then attack the warrior spider, thinking this was the last of the spiders, but oh boy was I wrong. What's that stupid saying about making the same mistake over and over again? Yeah, that applies to me quite often. Lesson learned. Okay, well, back to the grind. I find some edges of the map that I've yet to explore and continue doing just that. I find some more bees and birchnut trees, but nothing too crazy otherwise. Nothing but searching and searching as the darkness falls upon me. The emptiness truly setting in as I meander around in this nothingness. To better brighten my mood, I picked up some flowers, upsetting all the hornets nearby. And oh boy, were there a lot of them. There wasn't too much to write home about around this area, so I went home and regrouped. Figured I could cut down some trees and gather some food while I pondered my next steps, making some more enemies along the way. As this day came to an end, I rolled out the straw bed to get some shut-eye. Then this little gremlin came in and attacked me in my sleep, destroying my straw bed and ruining my beauty sleep. But fear none, my stubbornness wouldn't allow me to give up. I ended up crafting another one and slept the remainder of the night, welcoming day 14 with ever-lusting arms. While taking off to begin the day shenanigans, I pass by my 2 poison tree friends, then hear something in the distance. I quickly run to the nearest wormhole in hopes of escaping the hounds, but unfortunately they were hot on my trail. I immediately jump back into the wormhole and then dash off home, hoping to lose them again. This time, it seemed to work. I then spend the remainder of the night chopping down trees, then going to sleep to end day 14. With autumn nearing its end, day 15 had a different sense of urgency. Winter is coming, and coming fast. Screw Chester. I need gears ASAP, or I can kiss surviving goodbye. I continue exploring the eastern side of the map, jumping into the wormhole and immediately being greeted by the hounds I thought I had lost earlier. So I returned back through the wormhole. This time I continued going northeast, exploring some unchecked territory, passing by our friends, the hornets, and finding pine trees and new areas to search. There were some grasslands and a bountiful of spiders in this area. I found some more rope around 2 dead survivors, then went on a spider killing spree, collecting more silk and spider glands. Then, when all hope was lost, I found it. I found a junkyard. Junkyards often have gears in them, so this was great news. As night rolled in, I placed my lantern on the floor and began combing through the junk piles. And one by one, every single junk pile brought everything but gears. No gears. And with this, I felt hopeless. Winter is right around the corner. I have no way of storing my birchnuts, no way of avoiding them spoiling, no way to outlast the cold winter nights. I became angry and acted out, killing nearby spiders and collecting the decrepit pieces falling off their bodies as they die. After that, I calmed down and I put a new plan in motion. The only other thing I can do, dig up graves. I have to hope that one of these graves drop a gear. It's my last chance with the map I've seen so far. Dig graves, pick flowers, rinse and repeat. Well, things were looking incredibly bleak. This happens. Gears! I got so excited that I immediately paused to celebrate. But there's no time to celebrate. The clock is ticking. I must hoard birchnuts. The first step towards doing that is building the icebox, which is the first thing I did when I returned to the base. Now I can store all things that require refrigeration. And because of all the spider killing I was doing, I'm now able to build a tent. And as you look around, a solid base is beginning to take shape. What a perfect way for the day to end. But the night is still young. I spend the night building another storage, moving some inventory around, and crafting a thermal stone. So except for food, we're pretty prepared for winter. Now the true fun begins. I spend every waking moment of day 18 chopping down trees and gathering birchnuts, one after another, bringing down all fully grown birchnut trees. It's actually pretty crazy to me that I've been able to survive this long only eating birchnuts, and it's truly going to be put to the test now. Because as you can see, despite it still being autumn, the leaves have already begun to fall off the trees, which means those trees will no longer drop birchnuts. So I have to hurry, as I'm now battling against a finite amount of time. Way less time than I'd like. For my nerds in the comments, please do the math and comment down below how many birchnuts I'll need to survive winter and ensure I don't starve. This is the fun little game I was playing in my head while desperately gathering nuts. How many did I need to survive winter? By the end of day 18, I was able to add 70 additional birchnuts. The 12 nuts that were in the icebox had already begun to spoil, which didn't make me feel too great about the duration of the nuts and the ability to last all the way through winter. Tough times ahead. On day 19, the same agenda. Gather more birchnuts. And boy oh boy were the trees becoming harder and harder to come by, but I maintained my optimism. On my way home, I stopped by and destroyed the statues nearby, netting me some marble. This will be used for marble armor, mainly in preparation for the Deerclops. I want to ensure I have lots of armor, weapons, and healing. That's if I make it that far. When I arrived back home, I lit a nice warm fire and took stock of my birchnuts, sitting at a healthy 104 overall. I then make the essential armors, the marble suit and football helmet, and storing them in my backpack just in case. On day 20, the inevitable did happen. The leaves on the trees dissipated even more, and after chopping down a few trees, I realized the days of finding full birchnut trees are gone, at least until winter is over. So the amount I currently have is more or less all I have to get me through the winter. So in the meantime, I figured I would continue to prepare for the Deerclops, destroying a few pig houses and killing a few pigs to get more pigskin and meat for ham bats. This took the rest of the day, so once I returned home for the night, I crafted a ham bat and stored it in the icebox for safekeeping. And with the morning brought the first day of winter. We have 111 birchnuts in storage. 111 birchnuts to last all of winter. Yikes. And to give myself some much needed reassurance and a clear sign of panicking, I decided to build some walls. This was my first time placing walls in this game, so I was struggling a bit at first, but I ended up getting the hang of it. And because I had a vast storage of logs and grass, this was fairly easy to accomplish resource-wise. It did start to snow during that time, but on the night of day 21, the walls were completed. And as if the universe was testing me, hounds made their ugly presence known, so I equipped my ham bat and wait for some visitors. This wasn't too difficult as I have decent armor, and the ham bat is a pretty solid weapon. Once I defeated them, I grabbed some dropped teeth and threw aside the monster meat, since we have no need for that. Now, it was officially time to head back out. I was so eager to leave that I actually forgot my thermal stone, which would have ended pretty poorly. So I'd go back for it and then off we go. The main goal was to continue exploring new territories, though I wasn't too hopeful for anything specific. After having zero luck with birchnut trees, no real luck picking tumbleweeds, and getting chased by angry beefalo, it was time to head back home, lighting a fire and contemplating what to do with my life, aside from waiting to starve to death. With nothing specific to do, I chopped down every birchnut tree near my base. I figured I would stock up on more firewood, but was also hopeful this would cause them to grow faster once once winter was over. This was definitely not how they work. I'll explain later in this video how trees grow in this game. Regardless, the weather is cold. My hunger pains increase. My sanity steadily decreasing. My axe is my companion. She's the only one who cares about me. The only one who understands me. Ah, get out of my head. The reality of the situation is I only have 79 more birchnuts, and it's only about to be day 25. With that in mind, I will only be carrying 5 cooked birchnuts on me at a time, just to be safe. With the Deerclops potentially right around the corner, I spend the next few days gathering supplies to make healing salve, which needs ashes, stones, and spider glands, which did result in me killing a lot of spiders and accidentally starting a forest fire. But with that, I did learn that burning sticks and grass gives you ashes, so that gave me exactly what I was looking for, and was able to make 4 healing salve. With only 45 birchnuts in storage, I cooked 10 so I can refill my hunger and be ready for our dear friend. I equipped the hand bat, the marble armor, and the football helmet. And of course, as I was prepping, hounds came and attacked. This time, I was overqualified, and they weren't too difficult to take out. After that, I lay waiting in the freezing cold, hurtled between 2 fireplaces, until the inevitable happens. Rumbling in the distance. He's here. I could smell the stench of his warm breath and wet fur as he draws nearer. With Deerclops in my sights, I run over to grab his attention, hitting him then running away. The main reason why I built the fires was to avoid freezing when he slammed his body on top of me. Now that I'm safe from freezing, the easy part. Spam attack with my hand bat. Now this goes fairly well. My health isn't taking much damage because of my armor, and I'm doing a fair amount of damage with my hand bat. One concerning thing is how fast my sanity is going down while battling this creature, but I pay no mind to that as the battle ensues, until he broke my helmet. I was prepared and had an extra wooden helmet ready to go, throwing it on before I took too much damage, taking the fights to its final moments. What will collapse first? The Deerclops' heart or my sanity? I won. With the defeat of Deerclops, he dropped 8 meat, a Deerclops eyeball, and a sketch of a Deerclops figure. Nothing I could really utilize, but I can craft hand bats with the meat, so hooray for that. With my sanity at a dangerously low level, I scurry on home to light a fire and get myself situated. I take stock of my inventory, then build an extra storage container to store some of my new findings. Once that was taken care of, a new goal emerged: find flowers. With snow everywhere, this was much easier said than done, but I was able to collect enough to restore my sanity to normal levels. Then, of course, with my luck, we turned into a weregoose again, which drains your hunger and sanity. It was a full moon, and I hadn't even realized it. So I did what I've always done, stand in one place until I returned back to normal. But then it dawned on me, all the birchnuts were in my icebox back at my base. So I rushed back home, because once I've returned back to Woody, my hunger is set back to 0. So if I'd been away from home with 0 birchnuts and my hunger at 0, I likely wouldn't have made it back home with my health rapidly decreasing. Quick thinking which saved my life. Once back home, I cooked 10 birchnuts, only leaving me with 19 to last the rest of winter. I quickly eat the 10 birchnuts and heal myself with the healing paste, then running back to retrieve my supplies I had dropped. Once I felt whole again with my walking stick, I figured I would do some more exploring, knocking out some of the edges of the map. On my way back home, my thermal stone had lost its warmth, so I built a fire to warm back up, then continuing my journey home, with my hunger lingering as a potential issue. Once back, I moved some items around and crafted hand bats with the meat. Now I have a decent supply of weapons for the time being. On the morning of day 33, I ran out to grab a pine cone so I can have full armor head to toe. Stupidly running out during winter without my thermal stone, mind you. It's only day 33. The winter days are cold. The winter nights even colder. I only have 10 birchnuts left and I'm still hungry. A deer came to visit me. I like him. He's keeping me company as I slowly lose my mind out here in the wilderness. But just like everyone else, even he, too, leaves me alone, once again, starving. On the cusp of day 34, I eat 5 birchnuts and cook the last 5 from my icebox. 5 birchnuts now stand in the way of me and starvation. While stumbling around for healing solutions, I found a random birchnut on the floor, likely dropped by the catcoon nearby. Something I knew could happen, but I've never actually seen it. Pretty cool. Continuing onward, that's when I saw it. Fully grown birchnut trees. Oh My goodness. With winter nearing an end, there must be birchnut trees springing back to life. All of a sudden, the dark, bleak thoughts I was having seemed to vanish. I have a chance at surviving. There will be no starving in this playthrough. I quickly ran north to see if any additional trees had popped up and grown during winter, and wouldn't you know, some more birchnut trees. This made me feel fairly comfortable eating my 6 cooked birchnuts, as things don't appear to be as dire. Now remember, in autumn, birchnut trees drop 2 birchnuts per fully grown tree. In spring, they only drop 1. So despite the birchnut trees growing back as winter is winding down, gathering a steady food supply now requires twice as much work as earlier. But despite that, I was able to return home with 16 birchnuts. Ah yes, all is right in the world. Once home, I did some basic inventory cleanup now that things were looking up. And on the morning of day 35, the snow around me started to melt. I cannot put into words how happy this made me. The amount of stress that came with winter, especially with this challenge, good riddance. But with spring, this doesn't bring a ton of optimism either, because as you can see with the weather indicator, heavy rain was in the forecast, something I didn't notice in the moment. And if you ask me, I'd much rather deal with the cold than rain. But hey, we got birchnuts again, so I should stop complaining. Moving on, I spent the remainder of the day chopping down the birchnut trees near my house, then ending the night sleeping in my tent. Now that I have a good food supply to replenish my hunger. The next morning bringing the first day of spring. My goodness, it's finally here. My main goal today was to hoard birchnuts. Since there wasn't many trees near my base, I figured I'd go to the northern part of the map, where the gigantic birchnut tree forest resides. On the way up there, I gathered droppings from the beefalo just in case I wanted to start gathering sticks and grass to plant near my base. While chopping down some birchnuts in the forest, I noticed a lot more of them were becoming poisoned. 3 of them appeared almost immediately, then 3 more immediately after that. This isn't going to be as easy of a spring as I hoped for. I stayed out here chopping trees until nightfall came. That's when I started a fire and tried to stay dry as the rain continued to fall. With this, I built a straw hat to better fight off the rain. It didn't seem to matter though. The rain was here and I am wet. The next morning, I continued chopping and gathering any stick saplings I could find until something started to happen. I was getting too wet, too cold, and began to lose sanity very quickly. After warming by a fire, I made a beeline home. I figured I'd need to either grab a bunch of flowers or sleep in my tent, passing through the horny and angry beefalo. As nighttime fell, my sanity plummeted. I built a fire to try to stave off the coldness and hopefully warm and dry myself, but it did not matter. My sanity is now reaching 30 and still decreasing by the second. I had to run. It was no longer safe. I had to pick flowers now. With the bright sunny warmth of the new morning brought the horrific sound of dogs making their way towards me. But I have armor and a good weapon, so I was able to tank their hits and spam my own until they were defeated. But this didn't make things easier. I still had to grab more flowers to regain my sanity. And I was able to do that because with spring brought tons of flowers. I wasn't able to make it back to my base until the night of day 38, but I fixed myself up and regained my bearings once I did. Oh yeah, I totally forgot. While I was chopping down a bunch of trees in the birchnut forest, I found 2 gears just laying on the floor. I don't know why they were there, but I was able to use those to build 2 new ice boxes with the hopes of gathering more and more birchnuts. To begin day 39, I planted some stick saplings and grass on the outskirts of my walls. After that, I took some of the birchnuts and planted more trees around my base, since the trees around me weren't growing or regrowing. With day 40 brought a lot of rain. Because I had 0 birchnuts to speak of, I had to run back out to retrieve food, which was not an easy task in the middle of spring. It was raining non-stop. I was 100% wet, which meant my axe slipped out of my hand constantly and I was freezing cold. Super fun experience as I was struggling to collect a food surplus. But thank goodness my base was a safe haven, and the tent is a great place to reset my sanity and wetness levels. On day 42, I had some bad luck with the birchnut trees near my base, with 3 of them becoming poisonous, which is incredibly unlucky. But I did learn that the little guys the trees spit out could potentially drop birchnuts, so I went on a little bit of a killing spree, marking my territory. All this senseless murder made me incredibly exhausted, so I ended the night in my cozy tent. The next morning, I so desperately needed more birchnuts, so I ran up north towards the birchnut forest, battling more rain and a poison tree after poison tree. At this point, I haven't been able to stockpile birchnuts. I've essentially been chopping down trees and eating them immediately, struggling to survive. Since this was my new existence, I seriously contemplated moving to this forest long term, since my home was so barren of fully grown birchnut trees. But for now, I'm still trying to weigh my options. As day 44 continued to pelt me with rain, I took some time to explore some of the surrounding areas, trying to see what else is out there, hoping, just maybe, that Chester is still out here. I needed another companion in this world. Lucy is driving me crazy. Speaking of going crazy, my sanity was dropping rapidly, and I was stupid to ignore it as long as I did. And unfortunately, that's when the crawling horde flowers started spawning. Following my every movement, I couldn't escape them. I made a last-ditch effort to get home before I succumbed to my mental illness. While running through the grasslands, my sanity reached 0, spawning a terror break, the most feared of the shadow creatures, chasing me through meteor showers until the darkness surrounded me. I pulled out my lantern to shine the tiniest bit of light onto the dark world I found myself in, running as fast as my little feet can muster. Now with something nipping at my heels in the darkness. The situation wasn't looking good. My willingness to continue was becoming more bleak. My willpower was dwindling by the second, until the daylight of day 45 shined its optimistic beams of sunshine on this new day. That's when I realized that there was 2 terror breaks seeking to leech the little bit of identity I have left, making it back to my base and quickly trying to sleep in my tent, and realizing that that wasn't an option during the day. Getting bit 3 times by my inner demons, there was only one option left for me: flowers. I made a dead sprint for the bees in hopes of finding enough flowers to regain my sanity levels, all while being chased by 2 terror breaks, which made it extra difficult because terror breaks being in my presence was actually causing my sanity to drop more. So every time I gained sanity, it was steadily decreasing. After grabbing 24 flowers, I realized I was still a bit wet at 20%. So I started a fire and ran in circles, avoiding the terror breaks and angry bees. Luckily, this worked. My wetness levels returned back to 0, and since my sanity was around 80, the terror breaks faded into the background, waiting to haunt me another day. I then ate some birchnuts, healed, and picked some more flowers, reaching my sanity levels back to 200%. 50 flowers. That's how many it took to heal the situation. Once I was safe at home, I rejoiced near the fire, sorted some of my inventory, and played around with my resources until morning. On this wonderful day, I learned something I wish I had learned a long time ago. Remember how I mentioned that I chopped down trees earlier to try to get them to regrow? Now's the time I explain to you how they actually grow. Apparently, trees in this game just don't regrow. Once chopped down to a tree stump, they stay a tree stump. The game tries to regrow the specific kinds of trees in their designated areas of growth, but only if the tree is completely removed, or if you replant trees. So my major mistake is not ripping up the tree stumps, because the game is not trying to regrow trees because the tree stumps are in the way. And birchnut trees specifically don't regrow until spring, so there needs to be freed up soil, and after day 50, they will start springing back up. So the new goal is to rip up trees and replant birchnuts in the soil. And since I'm struggling to build up a stockpile of birchnuts, this is actually a desperate situation. This is how I spent all of day 46, trying to replenish my once fruitful home. On the next morning, I had to get birchnuts. I was incredibly low and slowly beginning to starve. So while I wait for the birchnut trees to regrow around my home, I had to return to the birchnut tree forest. This time, every time I chopped down a tree, I ripped up its tree stump to hopefully not screw myself over long term. I did this until I had about 15 birchnuts. That's when I heard my good old friends, the hounds, lurking in the distance, attacking me at night. Such a perfect sequence for me. And this time was very different. I was surrounded by 6 dogs, 3 of them being ice hounds. So this particular battle was fairly difficult, but of course I prevailed. The next day, after the rain was falling quite a bit, I ran home before my sanity became an issue again. And thank goodness I did, because I arrived home with 56% wetness and my sanity around 100. I cooked a few birchnuts, ate them, then jumped into my tent to weather this horrible rain happening outside. But once I got out of my tent, it was still raining and my hunger was depleted even more. So I had to eat the remaining 5 birchnuts I had left. During the night, I did something I should have done a long time ago. I crafted an umbrella. This should help fight out the rain a ton going forward. And it's actually quite OP. I'm very mad I did not do this earlier. Anyone that typed in the comments about an umbrella, I am so sorry. After that, I chopped down the trees that had regrown near my base. Then spending the remainder of day 49 chopping down trees and ripping up tree stumps. On the morning of day 50, I planted some trees around my base to keep the process going. After that, I did some further exploring trying to uncover more potential resources. But in reality, I was just searching for Chester. I wasn't finding anything important, but I did stumble upon a new wormhole. But the moment I jumped in, I saw the spring boss on the corner of my screen, the moose goose. So I did the smart thing and jumped back to get away, resorting to chopping down some more trees to replenish my food supply. And if you can see in the top right hand corner, it's a full moon tonight, which means But this time, I became a weremoose. I ran away from the spawning poisonous trees and head first into a birchnut tree. Pretty fitting. After waiting a bit and responding as Woody, I built a fire and ate the birchnuts I had on hand. Then do what I do best. Chop, dig, until I had 19 birchnuts. It finally felt like I was getting ahead of my hunger. Too bad it took almost the entirety of spring to do so. The next day, I did more or less the same thing, collecting to build a stockpile, and then hopefully take the stockpile home to replant near my base. Which is exactly what I did, running through the rain with my straw hat and umbrella in hand, not getting a lick of rain on myself. Returning home, I noticed some of the trees around my base had grown, which is quite lovely. On day 54, I reignited with my beautiful Lucy and chopped the first birchnut tree I saw, which of course spawned a poisonous tree right next to my base. And this poisonous tree started to whip its tentacle tree branches and destroy my base. This of course made me irritated, so I went to fight, which was not a smart idea at all, getting viciously combo attacked and bringing my health down to 26. I ate a few birchnuts to regain some health, then tried entering my base to see if I could do so safely. Yeah, no, he's aggro right now. And once I saw the tree further destroy my base's walls, I figured it was a good idea to give him some space to cool off. So I spent the day clearing out the trees nearby, doing this until nightfall. When I returned back home, I noticed the poisonous trees were gone, so it was safe to be home again. It only took some logs to repair my walls to what they once were, as I regained my bearings. And with summer right around the corner, I figured now would be a good time to begin preparing. Starting off by building a endothermic fireplace. This fire doesn't burn hot and is essential to summer survival. I planted some more birchnut trees in my backyard and continued about my day doing some housekeeping, gardening my sticks and grass and chopping some more trees. That's when I was welcomed by the sound I was not so thrilled to hear at this moment. It's the hounds, they're back again. Realizing my health was quite low, I ran to grab a nearby mosquito sack to heal myself a tad, rebuilt my log armor, and tried to scurry on home, realizing nightfall was about to fall upon us as well. But this time wasn't on my side. The hounds arrived. I wasted no time killing the first one, then the second, then the third, then the fourth. With the arrival of the fifth hound, night fell. I anxiously killed the fifth hound and whipped out my lantern. With my health at 22, I was hoping the fifth hound was the last of them, but I wasn't so lucky. Two more dogs appeared from the shadows. Now I'm left with no weapon in hand, darkness surrounding me, and my health at an unsightly 22%. I felt I had no choice. I had to flee to my base and light a fire. Once a fire was lit, I could defend myself. On the run back, I had my mouse lingering over the logs ready to spark my hopefulness. But then, a misclick. A hound bite followed. Realizing what happened, I tried to add fuel to the fire. My health now at 13%. The fire was lit, but the hound landed another bite. 9%. I panicked, trying to get a weapon in hand. 5%. All of a sudden, two night hands emerged from the darkness, grasping to extinguish the fire I just lit. 1%. With my bat in hand, I'm now ready to kill the hound before the darkness swallows me. But this time, the darkness wins. Okay, this is obviously not an ideal way for this challenge to end. I did survive 55 days and don't starve together only eating birchnuts and didn't even die to starvation. I died to a measly hound. Looking back now, I realized that the best play was to, with my lantern in hand, just run away. Run away until daylight, then fight the hounds. I've done this exact play before and should have done it right here. With that being said, the goal of this challenge is to evaluate the ability to survive only eating birchnuts in this game. I've already demonstrated that you can survive during autumn, winter, and spring doing just that, only eating birchnuts. But what about summer? Putting aside that I just died to a hound, I didn't die to starvation. So I want to respawn and give summer a try. If I could survive only eating birchnuts in summer as well, that'll answer the question I went into this video hoping to answer. So without further ado, we arise from the spawning thingy once more, immediately being greeted by Lucy and her anxious self. Her and I wait out the night, and on the morning of day 56, summer has officially arrived. And because the map has reset upon my death, I actually got lost for a brief moment. helmet, which is kind of embarrassing. But finding the trail leading to my house, I was greeted by the awful hounds that brought my death. And with 0 armor and only Lucy in hand, these 2 dogs brought my health down to 10%, just barely avoiding another death. Upon returning, I gather my supplies and get situated. That's when I realized that the Lucy from my prior life is now just a standard axe. And that's really depressing, but we'll ignore that for now. Okay, now that summer is here, I re-equip my straw hat and get back to chopping. Now, unfortunately for me, I don't have a ton of experience surviving in summer in this game, so I was fairly nervous about my ability to survive. The main thing that has to change is ensuring I don't succumb to the heat, so I'll be carrying a cold thermal stone going forward. I also built a Siesta lean-to to avoid really hot days, which is essentially a tent for the daytime. Now, the one thing I do know about summer is that things often catch on fire, including plants and trees, so I figured I should go absolutely crazy in Birchnut gathering in case there's a world that all the trees catch on fire or dwindle down as the summer days pass. One thing that is a consequence to summer are potholes, which I've never experienced until now, so that was actually pretty scary. But day after day, I gathered birchnuts in the smoldering heat, using endothermic fireplaces to cool myself in between chopping sessions. On day 61, I noticed things catching on fire more, but the trees were growing in my backyard, so there was some optimism. Nothing too crazy of note happened over the next few days, only that I saw a bunch of birchnutters and pigs battling it out, which was a fun sight to see, and resulted in a lot of free birchnuts. Oh yeah, this also reminds me that you can, in theory, farm birchnuts in this way. If you catch a poison tree on fire, they spawn birchnutters. You then can constantly kill them and have an endless supply of birchnuts. But for the sake of this video, I didn't want to attempt anything gimmicky such as that. And you honestly really need Abigail to make that truly fruitful. On day 64, I had a decent storage of birchnuts, with 115 overall, the most I've had in a good while. Turns out that hoarding them is quite easier in the summer compared to spring. But upon relaxing at home, I noticed a log catching on fire near my base. I ran over to put out the smoke, but it erupted into flames, then catching the nearby logs on fire, and eventually the grass saplings I had on the outskirts of my base. I ran as fast as I could to dig up the grass to prevent the spreading of the fire, but the fire spread into the inside of my home. Once this happened, I desperately ran inside to grab my 99 birchnuts that sat inside the icebox so they don't get lost in the blazing flames. Then, I realized I didn't have any gears and was potentially about to lose all 3 of my ice boxes. So I ran over to destroy one with my hammer to collect gears to rebuild once the fire dissipated. But unfortunately, the fire depleted my health way too fast, burning me alive. Returning back to my base, almost everything was burning to a crisp, including the 99 birchnuts I had gathered. Once again, I've lost everything. Everything I worked so hard to gain. My home was gone. I had nothing. But similar to the hound death, this wasn't a death of starvation. It was my stupidity. So despite me losing all 99 of my birchnuts, I could still recover and survive the remaining days of summer. So let's see if I can do it. Days 65 through 68, I spent in the northern birchnut tree forest. Since trees still weren't readily available near my home, I set up a tiny camp and gathered nuts to survive, battling the elements and fending off starvation. And on day 69, something started to happen. 2 birchnuts fell from every fully grown birchnut tree. Autumn is right around the corner. A surplus of nuts is potentially achievable. With this newfound optimism, I began salvaging my base, smashing and cleaning up the debris from the wildfire, building a new alchemy machine, 3 new storages, and sorting my supplies. Can this place feel like home once again? With some hopefulness filling my body, I planted some birchnut trees in the soil near my home. With birchnut trees now dropping 2 birchnuts per tree, we can now grow this home back to what it used to be. Watching as the tree leaves poofed back into life surrounded by its fellow trees, celebrating the beginning of autumn. Nothing could bring down my overall level of positivity until I realized that day 71 brought a full moon. We all know what that means. And to make matters worse, hounds also lurked nearby. Once the weregoose curse wore off, I ate some birchnuts to repair my hunger as fast as possible, then prepared for the hounds. And to my surprise, only one came to visit me. They must have, again, been distracted by the nearby swamp. Taking this opportunity, I ran up north to get away and gather more nuts to replenish my beloved birchnut forest. And on the morning of day 74, my planted trees began to bear fruit. This is when things truly felt hopeful. I'm planting a bunch of new trees. Trees dropped 2 birchnuts. I have plenty of food to stabilize my hunger, and I crafted a tent to signify this place as a home again. And to wrap up day 74, I ate some birchnuts next to my nice warm fire, equipped Lucy in my hand, and crawled into my tent, sleeping away all the pain and misery. Pain that was caused by no one else but myself. But with this pain, brought the conclusion that I can confidently say, yes, you can survive only eating birchnuts year-round and don't starve together. Alright, a few editor notes I want to end on. Again, thank you so much for watching watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please don't forget to like the video and share it with anyone that you think might also enjoy it. In the description, you can check out some of my socials, as well as join my Discord server. And don't forget, if you want a chance to win Don't Starve Together for free, comment the timestamp of your favorite part of the video in the comments. I'll be selecting 5 winners in the coming weeks that will be getting this game for free. If there are any other challenges you would like to see me attempt in this game or any other game, please let me know down in the comments as well. And with that, thank you so much for watching and making it to the end of this video. Until next time.